Good to go?
Sir.
Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, regular meeting of the Newburgh Enlarged City Central School District. I'd like to welcome everybody. Seats are full tonight. We have a lot of recognition for our students, and we love to see that. We love to see the seats full, and we welcome everybody. With that, we will call the roll.
Pledge.
The pledge, I'm sorry. Mr. Dennis Grant will lead us with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Okay, now call the roll.
Roll call. Mr. Bergarelli, Mr. Doré,
Present.
Mr. Grant, Mr. Harvey, Present. Mr. Howard, Mr. Levenstein, Ms. Mineo,
Here.
Ms. Politi,
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
Good evening. It's so nice to see all of you here tonight. Thank you all for coming. Item 1.3, National Board Certified Teacher Recognition. Ms. Moriarty?
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. This evening, it's my pleasure, our pleasure, to have Mr. G. Pinheiro from the Teacher Center, along with some of our National Board Certified Teachers tonight, recognize recently acknowledged National Board Certified Teachers and talk to us a little bit about this impactful program. Mr. Pinheiro.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is G. Pinheiro. I am the coordinator for the Newburgh Teacher Center. Tonight, it is my honor, and hopefully every year, I'm here to recognize we have one teacher who, in December, on December 9th, became nationally board certified. And that's congratulations to Linda Romano. I didn't see her come up. There she is. She's a school nurse teacher at NFA North. This is really an extraordinary achievement, as only 1% of the teachers in New York are nationally board certified. And in New York, we have just under 700,000 teachers in the state. And in the whole country, only 4% are nationally board certified. So it really is an awesome achievement by Linda. In the state of New York, we are third in the state as far as having the largest cohort of candidates for this year. I would like to thank the Newburgh Enlarged City School District and the Newburgh Teachers Association who provide support. We have a cohort here in the district that they meet monthly, and we have some nationally board certified teachers. I have them here with me who organize and help the candidates become and give them support to become nationally board certified. Through this collaboration, the Newburgh Teacher Center can assist in being able to offer this cohort to some of our current, to the current National Board Certified teachers. Becoming National Board Certified is a long and challenging process, and it is a great achievement as it can take up to 5 years to reach certification. Once certified, though, the journey is not over, as many of these teachers, if they want to maintain their certification, have to renew it every 5 years. I would like to congratulate Linda Romano again, if you could please come up, on your accomplishment. I would like to next introduce 3 of our National Board facilitators, Melissa Higgins, Sharon Kennedy, and Kathy Young. And an extra congratulations to Kathy, because I heard she might be she's retiring. Who also want to say a few words about becoming nationally board certified and the process behind it.
Good evening. National Board Certification is a voluntary process designed for teachers to demonstrate through standard-based evidence the positive impact they have on student learning as a result of their deep and abiding understanding of students, content knowledge, pedagogical practice, ongoing reflection, and participation in learning communities. Candidates for board certification submit evidence through use of student work samples, lesson videos, written summaries, and reflection showing that their practice meets the 5 core propositions and National Board standards for their content area. The National Board standards are standards which all teachers should strive to achieve and are created and maintained by teachers for teachers and are regularly reviewed and revised. National Board certification is considered the gold standard of teaching.
Good evening. So just to give everybody a little bit more background about all of the hard work that Linda has done over the past few years. So National Board certification, the candidates must submit a body of work that has 4 components. Component 1 requires teachers to demonstrate an understanding of content knowledge and developmentally appropriate practices for teaching a full age range and ability level within their content certification area. Teachers do so by completing a computer-based assessment. Component 2 requires teachers to evaluate the learning strengths and needs for individual students as the basis for planning and implementing appropriate differentiated instruction to a group of students. They then analyze and modify instructional strategies and materials based on student progress. Component 3 requires teachers to highlight their teaching practices and their learning environment. It captures details about a teacher's instructional planning and then has them show direct evidence of carrying out their lessons through the submission of video recordings, instructional materials, and a written reflection of their impact on student engagement and progress. Lastly, Component 4 requires teachers to demonstrate evidence of being an effective and reflective practitioner through their knowledge of students and the development and use of assessments. Teachers show their collaboration with families, caregivers, colleagues, and community members. They provide evidence of how these relationships advance students' learning and growth.
The entire National Board process can take anywhere from 1 to 5 years to complete. Much depends on the candidate's choice to complete 1 or more components each year. SUNY recognizes those teachers who have achieved National Board certification as having the equivalent of a doctorate degree in their pedagogy of their certification area. Currently, only 4% of teachers nationwide and 1% in New York State are National Board certified teachers. I am proud to announce that we now have 14 National Board certified teachers currently employed with the NECSD, bringing it to a total of 29 who have achieved, as some have since retired. All qualified teachers in the district should be encouraged to pursue National Board certification if they choose to do so. And tonight we recognize and congratulate Linda Romano from NFA North.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Ms. Moriarty will present the Math Meet Student Recognition.
Thank you. So just as we celebrated our teachers tonight, we now have the opportunity to celebrate some really hardworking fifth grade students and to introduce and talk about the Math Meet and introduce the advisor teachers who work with those students. And our champion math students is Mr. Al Rotaco, our math director.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, members of the executive team, Superintendent. I am here to introduce the honorees, the champions of the annual Grade 5 Math Meet. At first, I would like to introduce the heart and soul of the program. They put everything together every year. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. Ms. Zoe Matthews and Mr. Jesse Goodglass.
This time. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Manning Campbell, members of the board, and school community. The fifth grade elementary math meets of the Newburgh and Large City School District took place this year for a total of 4 sessions, and with the scholar-selected mantra of math gives us hope that every problem has a solution.
81 fifth grade students across the district were selected to participate in the 2023-2024 Math Meet competitions at the Newburgh Armory Unity Center, and 9 students from each elementary school were selected to participate based on New York State test scores, iReady scores, report cards, and teacher recommendation. During these meets, students were combined into 9 teams, and each team had a representative from each of the 9 elementary schools.
There were a total of 4 meets. The first meet was a meet and greet with icebreakers, the creation of team names, the decision of the meet mantra, and 1 competition problem to give the students exposure to how the competition would work. The second and the third meets were the competitions themselves, where teams were accumulating points, and the fourth and the culminating meet was an elaborate escape room activity, which was an exciting event for everyone, and many of you got to participate in that as well.
Each meet included personal videos from NECSD alumni with advice on how they use math in their career. These videos included both college and career tracks, such as a lawyer and a local judge, a biomedical engineer, a meteorologist, an MBA financial analyst, a world-renowned physician that specializes in bone marrow transplants, a preschool owner and a teacher, an MLB Major League Baseball bullpen catcher for the Cleveland Guardians, a Division I NCAA football coach for the University of Maine, an electrician, and a player for the Harlem Globetrotters. We are always looking for more NECSD alumni, so please feel free to contact one of us so we can share your wisdom with our students. We actually have a video we'd like to share from Dr. Adriana Vlahos, the class of 1978, so you can see a piece of what we share with our students. Do we have that? We don't have it? Oh. Okay.
Well, let's do the awards.
Okay. Sure. All right.
All right. We'd like to thank all the building leaders who supported us, the elementary math specialists who came to all the meets, Director of Elementary Education, Marcy Haywood, Director of Math, Al Rotaco, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Andrea Moriarty, and Dr. Jacqueline Manning Campbell for their presence and support in this opportunity for our students.
Participation certificates have been distributed to all of our scholars at the building level. We would like to congratulate all of our scholars for their efforts in these events and wish them much success as they enter the grade that's the square root of 36 next year. You got that? You can do that, right? Okay.
And tonight we have the honor to present our district's top 3 teams for the 2023-2024 school year. So we're going to start with our third place team. Third place mathematicians, the team they named themselves the Denominator Masterminds. We have Emma Celentano. We have Kristen Santiago. Kristen may not be here. Dylan Turso. Angel Rodriguez Hernandez. Andrew Fodovich. Matthew Boughton. Brooke Rodermacher. Aslan Zaidi. And Nalani Gums. Did I say that right? Maybe, okay, he's not here. So this is our denominator masterminds.
Thank you very much.
Our second place team named themselves the Math Busters. We have Christian Rose.
They go right up to here. Hang on. Here, Christian.
Thomas Lucchesi. Carmelo Sossler. Kimberly Rivas. Brendan Morales. Richard Paulino. Mekhi Springer. And Vivian Delmonico. Yes, I will say that, sure. And our first place mathematicians, first place team named themselves the Math Masters. We have, these students are also going to earn a Texas Instruments calculator that they can take with them and work with them through the middle school years. Tyron Stevenson. Here. Noah Senizal. Riley Soper. Biana Smith. Olivia McGowan. Caitlin Cow. Sir Gideon Paulinus. Evelyn Skakel. And Nayeli Rodriguez was part of that team, but she's not here. So this is our Math Masters. show it?
Yay, we have located the video. So kids, hang on 1 second. Don't leave yet. I would love everyone to just see a piece of Newburgh and what your future could hold. We don't have it?
No, still not.
Okay. Next time you will see. Okay.
Ms. Moriarty, student government presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. So also exciting, every month we have an opportunity to hear. Thank you, everybody. We have an exciting opportunity here from our student representatives from the high school. And this evening we have junior class members and their advisors, Ms. O'Neill and Ms. Teetree, here to talk to us about what's happening in the junior class. Welcome.
Good evening. We are junior class representatives of the Student Council. My name is Cora Karen, and I am junior class secretary, and I attend the main campus. Here are some of the NFA highlights from the last month. The Prism Club, or School GSA, is trying to make more awareness about things happening currently at a local and national level. They are also working on creating a partnership with Habitat for Humanity to join one of their projects. Students in Photo 2 and 3 have been taking portraits of the faculty and staff for inclusion in the yearbook using professional lighting and backdrop setups. They have photographed approximately 75 faculty and staff, including admins. West students worked in the digital studio art and ceramic courses on social justice artwork projects that were displayed in an art gallery format. The 8th annual NFA West Poetry Slam and Art Show was held on Friday, March 1st. Topics for the poems and artwork included woman empowerment, Black history, social justice, and personal growth and reflection. We are so proud of the My Brother's Keeper program fellows from the West Campus who attended the New York State My Brother's Keeper Stand and Deliver Conference in Albany, New York. Each fellow had to prepare a reflective speech about their MBK journey and what brotherhood means to them. The NFA Maine Music Department had 56 students and 5 teachers travel to Albany on March 8th to perform on the Empire State Plaza in celebration of Music in Our Schools Month. The purpose of this event is to bring awareness and support to the music education programs throughout New York State. In addition to our trip to Albany, the music department will have a live-streamed assembly on Thursday, March 21st from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. The performing groups will showcase one song in preview of our spring concert. Throughout the month of March, the music department had led impromptu student performances in the lobbies of NFA Maine in celebration of Music in Our Schools Month. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julia Coyle, and I am the junior class treasurer, and I attend NFA's main campus. The Black History Month of NFA wrapped up a successful month of activities. During the month of February, they acknowledged and celebrated the contributions of those who came before us. Throughout February, each building displayed a slideshow of notable contributions from persons of African diaspora. Those highlighted were notable individuals and those with not so familiar names. They also visited SUNY Albany to attend a one-man show entitled raspy, and black. This highlighted the life of actor Leland Gant and how he traversed through various life obstacles and survived. Lastly, they closed out the month with their annual assembly. This student-led event showcased talents of the students and invited guests. This year, we were graced with spoken word, dance, African drumming, and a motivational speech by the Honorable Corey Ellis, President of the Common Council of Albany, New York. For Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which is February, Club SEL, Social Emotional Learning, created a wall of hearts to promote healthy relationships. Club SEL members from both NFA Maine and NFA North attended the Fearless Hudson Valley Love Shouldn't Hurt Teen Summit at Mount St. Mary's College. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alexandria Crawford, and I am the junior class senator, and I attend the main campus. The Crochet Club that you recently approved the creation of has started, and they have been able to teach at least 40 students how to crochet. There are student volunteers who already know how to crochet that come and help teach beginners, and they have students that bring baked goods to share with our members as well. Besides crocheting, students are also able to learn other crafts like knitting if they want. The Newburgh Mock Trial team competed in Goshen on March 16th. The team advanced to the next round and will compete on April 6th. They will face James I. O'Neill High School. Come watch the solar eclipse with Astronomy Club. They will be meeting on April 8th at 2:15 on the NFA track. Our Spring Peach Fest Senior Volleyball Tournament will take place at 5 p.m. this coming Thursday, March 21st. We hope some of you will attend. Over 1,000 students from all 3 campuses will be getting an opportunity to teach our GAM students on tomorrow, March 20th. This partnership with Junior Achievement. We cannot wait to tell you more in April. The NFA Colonnade members and NFA seniors Kiara Graziano and Sophia Mucci competed in the Poetry Out Loud at SUNY New Paltz on February 27th. Thank you, and here is a video to showcase some of the material we just shared.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. At this time, Mr. Duray, our Board of Education President, would like to make a statement before I proceed. Thank you, girls.
Thank you. Good evening again. I say and will continue to repeat that as a board, we welcome the community to observe and respectfully participate in these meetings. Participation and engagement in our local government, which includes our school system, was critical to our founders and is equally as important 250 years later. We are pleased you are here, be it to discuss recent events in the school system or to discuss the upcoming budget. I'm sure there will be several speakers tonight. I want to assure you that on behalf of the board, we will be listening to your comments. On behalf of the board, I would like you to also listen to information and comments provided by the administration. At the end of the day, every single person in this room is in agreement with one goal. That goal is the safety of our children is paramount in every decision we make as parents, or as the school district. I'm going to turn this over to our school superintendent, Dr. Manning Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeRay. I would like to offer some remarks about when incidents occur in our school district. First and foremost, I am a mother of 2 school-age children, so I can understand how our parents may feel. I send my children to their public schools daily and entrust the professionals with their safety and education. And please understand that I make decisions for the children of our district. I inherently do so as a parent. I do not take this role lightly. I am the leader of one of the largest districts in New York State, and I understand the complexities, diversity, and various needs of our student population. It is my hope that we reflect collectively on the traumas that our student population faces that many of us will never understand, and that when we have incidents, our initial response should be, how do we work to support our students, instead of who do we blame when these things happen? Our efforts as a district will continue to be on addressing the complex needs of our students in collaboration with parents as partners and community agencies to support students and families as productive members of our community. I would also like to correct some misinformation that is circulating in our community. Before I do so, I would like to note that the district is not permitted to share specific information about our students. However, since our partners in local law enforcement can share certain information, I will summarize their statements. On Friday, the Town of Newburgh Police Department responded to Meadow Hill School and charged a 13-year-old male student with assault in the 2nd degree, a felony after an altercation with a 13-year-old female at the school. In order to protect the privacy of our students and the rights that they have as individuals, the district cannot get into more specific details regarding any individual involved. Within an hour of the incident, the Meadow Hill administration, faculty, and staff took care of the physical and emotional well-being of the middle school students, with most of the focus going to the students in the immediate classroom where the incident took place. The elementary students in their section of the building were not exposed to the incident, and I commend the Meadow Hill team. Also, within that hour, dismissal was coordinated, with the exception of the students in that classroom who were held, so our team could connect with their parents directly. Meadow Hill School parents, faculty, and staff were communicated with by email, with additional communication that followed. Our schools and district offices work in tandem on all communication. We are one and the same, particularly during a critical incident, such as the one that occurred on Friday. My executive team and I care deeply about our students. Each member of my team was alongside me as we coordinated support for our students, families, faculty, and staff throughout the entire weekend, as well as members of the Board of Education. I am thankful for those individuals who have reached out and shared their feedback with my team and me directly. We have taken your feedback to heart and will consider it during the routine review of our processes and protocols. I feel that it is important to educate our community about certain aspects of the public education system. The following information does not pertain to any one student, but to all of our students. This is how the process works for every child in our school district. Public schools throughout New York State are required to educate all students. If a family lives within our district bounds and chooses to send their child to a public school, we must educate every child. Our school and district leaders are dedicated to consistently applying the Student Code of Conduct, district policies, and New York State law. We annually review the Code of Conduct and education law to hold students accountable and learn from their behaviors. I would also like our community to know that although we hope to never have encountered an emergency situation, protocols are in place that our professionals are trained to follow in order to react quickly and mitigate difficult situations as quickly as possible to reduce the impact on our children. Unfortunately, we cannot predict and therefore prevent every scenario that may present itself, but our professionals are prepared to respond in the event that a critical incident occurs, both in the moment and to help process the situation with their students, families, faculty, and staff as needed. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now to public comment on agenda items, followed by public comment on non-agenda items. Before we get going, just a review of the rules that we follow with this. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. We're going to go 30 minutes tonight. If we need to go longer, I will ask the board for permission to go longer in terms of listening to the community. There are no names allowed as you're speaking. That's part of the policy. And if you hear the gavel at 5 minutes, it's truly not out of disrespect for you. It's out of respect for the person following you. All right, so with that, Mr. McCoy is going to help us with who's signed up.
There's one person signed up to speak on agenda items, Mr. President, and that's Miss Andrea Turso. She's speaking on the budget.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Turso. I have 2 students in the district, one at Gardnertown and one at Heritage. I was taking a look at the budget information that you posted today, Dr. Kimball, and I know it's very difficult to decipher. I am a teacher in a neighboring district, one who was let go because of budget problems years ago, have been since reemployed, but so I am familiar a little bit with the information, and if I'm reading it correctly, we're looking at a $9 million budget gap. And I guess my question is, in looking at the rest of the agenda this evening, is if the board might question why we are sending 5 people to Las Vegas this summer, 6 people to Atlanta this summer, 4 people to New York City this summer at the cost of almost $40,000. My other question might be, why are we spending $80,000 on iPads to put these kids in front of screens? They are in front of screens enough. Do we need to spend $80,000 on more iPads? Do we need to put them in front of a screen again? I don't think we do. We need to focus on literacy rates, and putting in front of a screen is not going to do it. So I was just hoping that these board members, you would take a look at this spending that is unnecessary at this point and maybe put a moratorium on these conferences and not send people all over the country at the cost of the taxpayer. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to non-agenda items. Anybody who would like to speak on non-agenda items?
So there's a list, sir. The non-agenda items, the first person signed up to speak is Ms. Felicia Hodges on athletic policies.
Good evening. My name is Felicia Hodges, and I'm a resident of the town of Newburgh, a 1984 graduate of Newburgh Free Academy, where I was an All-American athlete in track and field. I'm also a 6-time Division I collegiate All-American in the sport. I'm a working journalist who is a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. I'm also a professor in the Digital Media and Journalism Department at SUNY New Paltz. The point of that intro, again, wasn't to boast, but it was to let you know about my investment in this district and its athletic programs, as I've been involved with them as a student, a scholar athlete, a parent of a district scholar athlete, assistant coach for the girls track team, a volunteer boys track team coach, and the wife of this year's National Indoor Track and Field Coach of the Year. If you do the math, you'll see that my involvement in this district has spanned a little over 50 years. The state of New York requires, I think it went out, state of New York requires that anyone who wants to coach or volunteer with the athletic team take a 2-hour school violence training workshop. In it, information about Safe Schools Against Violence, or SAVE, is detailed. SAVE was enacted in 2000 in response to the Columbine high school shootings in Colorado. State law now requires that the district-wide safety plan in place must, quote, include a minimum appropriate prevention and intervention strategies for extended day and other school safety programs, and that those plans be, quote, reviewed by the appropriate team on at least an annual basis and updated as needed. Each district's Board of Education also shall make each district-wide safety plan available for public comment at least 30 days prior to its adoption, and can only be adopted, quote, after at least one public hearing provides for the participation of school personnel, parents, student, and any other interested parties. That's according to the New York State Comptroller's Office. Almost a year ago, after a violent incident at a track meet involving an irate parent from another team, I stood in this very spot and asked you if your plans had anything in it about students who represent the district when they are away from the actual building, like athletes, junior ROTC cadets, math team, Odyssey of the Mind team, debate team, or solar car teams. As I got no response, I made a Freedom of Information Law request to view the plan. I just made another records request this morning so I can compare those plans and see what's currently in place. Are there any plans to update that soon? Especially in light of the violence that happened this week at Meadowhill School, it seems more imperative than ever that that plan for basic safety protocol be examined and utilized, even when students representing the district are doing so off of school property. It's really not that complicated. I'll end with the same questions I asked you last April. What would it take for you to treat situations that happen while district students and employees are off campus, but representing the Newburgh and Large City School District seriously? Would it take an athlete getting hurt in the bleachers as a result of something like what happened to the track team last year? A fight caused by the same unstable parent who is still allowed to attend meets, home and away? A coach getting stabbed or otherwise hurt while trying to protect the team, the staff, or themselves? Seriously, what would it take? There's no way that this information wasn't known because myself and several other parents stood here a year ago, 11 months ago, and told you. There's also a police report that told you. The athletic director of the school where the incident occurred wrote a report that told you, and student witnesses wrote statements that told you. Please help me understand this and handle this before someone else gets hurt seriously on your watch. Please stop sending the message to the scholar athletes that you boast so much about on the district website that they aren't important enough to warrant more basic safety consideration. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Peter DeLuke on protocols.
Thank you. Good evening. We are, there you go. Peter and Ann Danieluk, and our son Brady is a junior NFA. He's involved in the indoor and outdoor track teams as well as the cross-country team. We're here to make you aware of significant funding and policy changes that have occurred over the last year to both the track programs and alert you about another experience in cross-country where funding to coaches and athletes were denied. Starting with the indoor track, every year the team has been allowed to leave school early to attend the practice on Friday evening in Staten Island prior to state meet on Saturday. In doing so, the team was always allowed to stay overnight and have team meals and accommodations paid for by the district. This year, however, this was not allowed. The team this year was not allowed to leave the school early and go down to Staten Island and practice. The suggestion was they can leave at the end of the day at 2:18 p.m. If they chose to go to practice, they would have had to go back to Newburgh Friday night, which is about a 4-hour round trip through traffic, and get another bus Saturday morning just to leave at 6:30 to attend states. Since this was not a viable option for the scholar athletes, the team did not get to practice for states this year, as other schools and districts in the areas did. Instead, they left at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning to compete in the New York State Track Championship. Despite all these roadblocks, the team did very well. Won state title and 2 other events where the Scholar athletes made it to the podium. In comparison with other winter sports, such as swimming, wrestling, and bowling teams, they were allowed to leave school early to attend the states and are allowed to stay overnight at nice, safe hotels with accommodations and meals paid for by the district. Also last year, the district was able to fund outdoor track team to travel to South Carolina to run against other schools throughout the country, as well as compete in the pin relays, which the district has funded since the 1980s. As you may recall, last year the team won the wheel at the pin relays for only a second time in school history. This is an event where Scholar athletes can perform in front of college coaches who attend this nationally recognized track event, where we were recently notified that both trips this year, the pin relays and the state meets, will no longer be funded. Lastly, when Brady went to states for cross country, we were notified by the district booked as a room at the Ramada Wynn at Rome, Verona, New York. This was a very unsafe, unsanitary hotel where the filth, cockroach, and illegal drug activities took place. I just got a couple of quick reviews, over 100 of them. I'll just read a few. The rooms are beyond gross. There are cockroaches and bugs crawling over the floor. This was quite possibly the worst hotel I've ever stayed in. Drug deals go down outside the hotel rooms, very unsanitary and unsafe. Don't stay at this hotel. Absolutely disgusting. These reviews were brought to the attention of the AD. He dismissed them, writing that this hotel was approved and appropriate for the district. He refused to book another place for states. 2 days before states, we had to book a new room for our athlete, and both coaches had to do the same. After states, we requested reimbursement from the district for the rooms for both the athlete and coaches, and the AD refused to reimburse the prices of the rooms, not even the $86 for the hotel that I was just discussing. Why would the district book a hotel for a student athlete and 2 coaches in a place like this is one question. This has never happened before for athletes going to states. The question is, why is it happening now? Through many emails, we have been asking who is making and overseeing these new policies and why they're different throughout the running program compared to other schools. We asked and no answers. We asked the district policy regarding booking accommodation, who specifically booked this one room. No reply. We asked AD where the money is going that is not being spent on hotels for both the track and cross-country programs, these past state championships, and these 2 trips. Once again, no reply. We now come here to the Board of Education seeking answers on the discrepancies between track and other sports in FA. With your help, we hope to finally receive answers on behalf of our nationally ranked Scholar athletes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Arabella Tantono on safety.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arabella Tantono, and I am an 8th grader at Meadow Hill. I am here tonight to speak on curriculum and safety concerns in our schools. I recently transferred to Meadow Hill from South Middle School, and as a student, it has become apparent to me that the board is failing in its duty to provide students with a well-rounded education that prepares them for success in the real world. First and foremost, there are not enough teachers that are being implemented in each school by the board. Some of our middle schools are severely lacking in teachers for essential subjects such as science, math, and foreign languages. Instead, we have substitute teachers who have no background of education in those subjects. Some middle schools have more opportunities than others. For example, Meadow Hill offers honors social studies and South Middle School does not. Temple Hill and Heritage offer living environment, whereas Meadow Hill and South offer earth science. It is unacceptable that students are graduating from middle school without the basic knowledge they will need. As we all know, teachers play a vital role in the development and success of our students. They not only educate us students, but they also teach them important values and skills that are necessary for their future successes. There are several factors contributing to this shortage, including low pay, lack of support and resources, demanding workloads, and the increasing challenges of the profession. For example, lack of safety and violence in the classroom. In light of recent events, in case you are not aware, this past Friday at Meadow Hill, we witnessed a male student who had a history of violence from his past schools assault another female student in our classroom and severely injure her to the point where emergency services had to be called, and the male student was walked out of the building in handcuffs. This incident happened in our English classroom and has left a traumatizing effect on my classmates as well as our school community. I did not feel safe at South Middle School, and after this incident, I do not feel safe at Meadow Hill. Safety in our schools is essential in creating an environment where students and teachers can thrive. When students feel safe, they are more likely to be able to focus on their studies and engage with the material being taught. When safety is compromised, whether due to physical hazards, bullying, or other threats, students and teachers may feel anxious and distracted, hindering their ability to learn and teach effectively. Safety also plays a crucial role in ensuring that students can attend school regularly and participate in activities without fear of harm. When schools are safe, families can have a peace of mind knowing that their children are in a secure environment and can focus on their academic pursuits. Students who feel supported and cared for by their teachers and peers are more likely to excel academically and develop a positive attitude towards learning. Newburgh schools should be safe havens for learning and personal growth, and any form of violence or aggression should not be tolerated and goes against everything we stand for as a community. It is the duty of administration to ensure the safety and well-being of all students, and any behavior that puts that at risk should never be tolerated. Every student deserves an education, but when it starts to affect the education of those around them, they should be placed in a separate educational building specifically for those who continuously disrupt the environment of those around them. My question for the administration is how this boy was allowed to pass from school to school, knowing that he was a threat to himself and others.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Danielle Prater on athletic programs.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Scott Prater. I reside in the town of New Windsor, and I have a son who is a senior at NFA. He's played on the varsity football team and also is on the indoor and outdoor track teams. Just recently, the track team was informed that 2 competitions they have attended in previous years, the Penn Relays in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the Beach Run Invitational in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, were not going to be funded this year, and the team would not be able to go and compete in them. These athletes work extremely hard all year long in both their academics and their training and look forward to these events, and there was no good reason given for these cancellations other than being told they wouldn't be funded. Penn Relays is one of the largest high school track events in the country, and the NFA track and field teams have been going to it since at least 1980, with all travel, entry, fees, and lodging for the multi-day event having been covered by the district. This is a huge event where college scouts go to recruit athletes, and last year the NFA boys team won the 4x400 meter relay. I'm curious as to how the decision was made to pull the funding for out-of-state travel to these events, and who made this decision. Is it a budgetary issue? Are all of the athletic teams being told they cannot travel to out-of-state competitions anymore? And if so, why is the budget balancing happening on the back of athletics, much less on one of the most awarded and recognized teams in NFA's history? These kids only have one go-around at their high school athletic careers, a lot of them using athletics to help propel them into college, and they deserve all the help they can get. They don't deserve to have these valuable opportunities of testing their will and strength and showing their athletic abilities to potential college recruiters taken away from them. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Sherry Pinto on the athletic programs.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sherry Pinto. My son is a 9th grader and is on the track and field team. I just have one question, and the boys track and team head coach was honored with a national award on March 10th. But although the information and photos from the event were sent to the district's Director of Communications, but no information or acknowledgement of the honor has been mentioned on the district's website. Is there a particular reason why that information hasn't been posted? Will it be posted? Thank you.
The next person signed up is Talisha McNeil. Sorry about that. On school literacy.
Hello, my name is Tarsha McNeil. I have two sons that attend Baumville Elementary. At the last board meeting, it was brought to the attention of the board that there is a major issue with the ELA and math programs being used in the school district. At the beginning of the year, in I-Ready Case Math, 10% of the students started at one grade level, 49% were at one grade level below, and 40% were at two or more grade levels below. In ELA I-Ready, 20% of the students started on grade level, 39% were at one grade level below, and 41% were at two or more grade levels below. To date, the scores have not changed. To continue Dr. Bond's point when addressing the board, the fact that 80% of the students are below grade level should be appalling. I, along with other NECSD parents, need to know what steps are being taken to address the fact that such a large number of our kids are seemingly illiterate more than halfway through the school year, and why, as a district, we are using a reading program that is not teaching our kids to read at the foundational level. If we don't create readers by third grade, many will never read. I also want to address the fact that in Baumville Elementary, there are a disproportionate number of students with IEPs that are not receiving the services that are required by their IEP, my son being one of them. To date, there is no social worker or school psychologist assigned to the building. Many of the parents, including myself, weren't even aware of this until recently. Please outline your plans to address this issue as well. Lastly, as another example of how the district is failing the kids and with the services provided in the building and how the lack of communication causes undue hardship on the parents and kids, is the recent situation at Meadow Hill. The district sends out robocalls for 2-hour delays, federal holidays that come around every year, but nothing for a male student brutally beating a female student in a classroom full of kids. Parents were informed via students calling from the school or upon their return home, and due to the lack of staff/services, there was no social worker or psychologist on site to address traumatized students immediately. That's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
The next person signed up is Miss Andrea Turso on safety.
Hello again. I'm not going to reiterate everything that everyone else is saying, but I will quote something from the letter that was sent out to Meadow Hill parents, which was, "Our highest priority is the physical and emotional well-being of our scholars." And I heard you as well start the meeting out with that tonight. If that was the case, I don't think we were thinking about those Meadow Hill scholars when we removed that student from one building and brought him to another. The safety of those students at Meadow Hill was not considered, if that is what we're doing, just moving students around. I just want to say that my daughter goes to Heritage, and she comes home every day with reports of fights and violence. It is just out of control in these school buildings, and I don't know what the solution is. I wish I did, but something has to change. And I am not one to want the government to take over anything, but at this point, I don't know what else we can do for this district unless the state comes in and fixes things. Thank you.
There's nobody else signed up, Mr. President. Public participation started at 6:40. That would leave you with 10 minutes left.
Would anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Capano, Michelle Capano. We have a son, Robert Capano, at GAMS. He's a pre-K student. But first, let me say, Dr. Manning Campbell, and to the board, thank you for your time. And I think, Mr. Chairman, you said at the beginning of your remarks, talking about the importance of local levels of government, having worked for elected officials at the federal and state levels, I certainly know that it's local boards like this that are most important, because you're doing the most important thing, which is trying to improve the lives of our children. So thank you. Let me say we are very thankful to GAMS, his principal, Ms. Marshall. I'm sorry, I know I'm not supposed to mention names, but it's a positive one, and his teachers there. But unfortunately, the Office of Exceptional Learners has lagged in services for our son. They have failed to comply with IEP recommendations within 30 days, as outlined in state regulations. Our son is pre-K, by the way, is consistently suspended from school because of his behavior. He's removed from the classroom. We have to bring him home half days at a time, preventing my wife from working. It's heartbreaking, quite honestly. And I know, Dr. Manning Campbell, you said every decision you make is based on a parent. So I know that we can talk to you, but you can't talk to us. So it feels like we're just wasting our breath. And we'll stay here after the meeting if anybody from the Office of Exceptional Learners or anybody wants to come up to us. But the bottom line is, our son was provided a functional behavior assessment recommendation on November 21st, 2023, and no one was assigned yet, far beyond the 30 days required by the state. So therefore, we have been unable to get a behavioralist or a behavior intervention plan. The committee also recommended a one-on-one aid for him on January 22nd, 2024. It is now beyond 30 days. Yesterday, we spoke with the Superintendent's Office of Exceptional Learners, and they simply said there are no resources, and perhaps, in a few weeks, we'll be able to find someone. That is not servicing our students. Certainly our son is consistently feels he's in trouble. You know, it's not to the school's fault at all. They always do their best. But when you're consistently pulled out of the classroom and having to be sent home early, obviously it has an effect and an impact on you. So we just don't think that he nor any student should have to deal with this. I mean, to be told point blank several times, and despite several emails and phone calls to the assistant superintendent of the Office of Exceptional Learners, no response, no emails, and then being put on the phone with someone yesterday, as my wife spoke to, said, perhaps someday in the next few weeks we'll be able to get an aid. I don't think any parent in this room would accept that, and I think every parent will be sitting up here doing exactly what we're doing. Our son Bobby is a bright, smart, funny, curious young boy who we adopted from South Carolina many years ago, and we've done our best to give him the absolute best upbringing, and he's had some struggles, but we're fighting tooth and nail to make sure he has the best life possible. We moved to New Windsor several years ago because we heard that the Newburgh School District had good services. We heard that this school board cared. We heard positive things about so many people here and so many things here. So when I come here before you now and say, why can't our son get that basic education and the help that he clearly needs? Every professional, his principal, his teacher, all agree Robert Capano needs the help. But yet the Office of Exceptional Services says, sorry, there's no services. We can't find anyone. Well, if we can't comply with the law, then it's my understanding that parents have the right to look to other avenues, including legal, to try to get those services. But we don't want to do that. We're here now talking to you as parent to parent. We're asking for help for our son. He deserves it. All children deserve it. We shouldn't have to pick him up at 11 o'clock in the morning getting a call from school. He's in pre-kindergarten. He's 4-year-old. He deserves better. I think hopefully someone will hear, and I know you can't respond publicly, but hopefully someone will respond. Thank you.
Good evening. Joseph Ammons, parent, taxpayer, Newburgh Large City School District employee, CSE Executive Vice President, Orange County Local 836. I'm saying this from my son tonight. I'm speaking tonight on the plague of violence that is happening in our schools. They are not fights off of school property that would occur back in my day, but brutal assaults happening right in our kids' classrooms and hallways and on school grounds. There's absolutely no accountability or repercussions for one's actions, and it shows. I'll try to get through this. When my son leaves for school, I always say, have a great day. I love you, but I repeat constantly, please be safe. Please be safe. I go to work every day with a knot in my stomach, not knowing what horrible thing may happen that day, and I'm sick of it. And I know that other parents are as well, and it has to stop. Not by telling us what systems were in place and what counseling is being offered after the fact, but what is being done to prevent anything this horrific from ever happening again. Our teachers are being attacked. Our staff and security has been attacked. I've been here quite a long time. I can give you a long list, but I don't have the time. Now our children are being attacked and hospitalized. Hospitalized. This is not what No Child Left Behind means. And the disturbed individuals that commit acts such as this should be recognized and given the help that they need out of the district. My thoughts of strength and power go out to the family and for this poor child that had to go through this horrible incident simply by going to school for the day. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments on non-agenda items? Okay, that concludes non-agenda. Board is now going to move into executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose: employment history of certain pediatrical employees or corporations, and the matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, CSEA, NTA, NSAA, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. We'll be back in about 1 hour. Thank you.
Point of order. You need to entertain a motion, sir.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levenstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Doré?
All right, welcome back. We are moving to item 5, the superintendent's update.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to share some highlights that have occurred since the last board meeting. Student talent has been on full display with plays and musicals being performed at Fostertown, South Middle School, and Newburgh Free Academy. Additional school performances are scheduled for later this spring. Be sure to check our website for showtimes. NFA welcomed back dozens of alumni who supported the show in a variety of ways. Our high school students were also visited by the artist who wrote the original music and lyrics for the play. As a writer, he has seen hundreds of performances of the musical Hairspray and was blown away by our student performance. Tomorrow night, we will celebrate our student musicians throughout the district at our All-District Music Festival. Our McKinney-Vento liaison, Ms. Corey Rogers, attended the topping off ceremony at the new home of the Food Bank of the Hudson Valley. As a small token of their appreciation, they've added $1,000 to their programs that support our scholars. Their Senior Director of Children's Programs noted it was really powerful to contrast the potential for growth of the new building with the work that is already being done by our dedicated core of food bank partners. Our district-wide spelling bee is back. The Scripps National Spelling Bee is an exciting competition for students to showcase their skills and knowledge of spelling words. The regional bee is taking place this Thursday at OU BOCES. One 7th grader and one 8th grader from each building were identified as a winner to advance to the regional B. These students had the top scores on the Classroom B via a blind spelling test. If they win, they go to DC for the National B. We will be hosting our district-wide spelling bee on May 20th. Our superintendent's essay contest with the theme of Women's History Month has closed. We received more than 150 submissions from our K-12 scholars. Our team has a lot of reading to do as we select winners to highlight. We'll do so at an upcoming board meeting. 20 NFA students attended the 22nd Institute on Human Rights Regional High School Upstander Institute, hosted by the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center. 3 of our scholars presented about the environmental crisis and shared issues around waste due to plastic and fashion, offering ideas for solutions. We are thankful for their interest in this important event, and we are proud of their representation of our high school. This is just a snapshot of the incredible things happening around our district on any given day. Thank you. Item 5.2, Budget Development Update. Ms. Kimberly Roaring, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, will provide an update on the 24-25 budget development. This presentation will share the current status for fiscal 25, as well as references to a prior presentation that was given to you, trustees, on March 28, 2023.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. Good evening, Board of Education. I'm looking forward to providing you an update. This will be our final update before we present a proposed budget to you on April 9th. So tonight we're going to talk about where we are in the process. We're going to review some of the information we've shared previously regarding our multi-year projections. We're going to share the current revenue projection and also the tax levy scenarios the board requested at the last meeting. We will also share our current expense projection and new multi-year projections based on the current budget amount. So at this time, Executive Cabinet has completed our meetings with each building principal on their master schedule to determine staffing needs for next year. We have completed the initial review of all retirement notifications that were submitted to HR to determine what positions will need to be maintained to best support our students. And we have completed initial staffing adjustments, which are reflected in this budget update. Again, the superintendent's priorities as we look towards fiscal 25 is literacy of our scholars, supports for all of our English language learners, and our exceptional learners. We've been talking about equity in our budget. We are looking at data-driven staffing, and we're also looking at staffing ratios, both at support staff, faculty, and administrators, to make sure we're best meeting our students' needs. So when we presented our proposed budget last year on March 28th, 2023, one of the things that we provided at that time to the board were revenue projections for out years. And the first scenario you see here on this slide was with a continued flat tax levy through 26-27. What would that mean for our revenue? The second one that was shared at that time was 2%. So beginning in fiscal 25, doing a 2% increase each year on our tax levy, what that would mean for a revenue increase year over year. In both of these scenarios, we assumed a 5% increase in foundation aid, which historically was approximately what the district received. When we looked at what that multi-year budget and revenue projection meant from a gap perspective last year, it showed that we would have gaps ranging from $6 million to $21.9 million with a continued flat tax levy, which essentially means we have a structural deficit in our budget. Even at a 2% tax levy increase year over year beginning in fiscal 25, we would estimated a gap in the out years of up to $15 million. That structural deficit basically means that our recurring expenditures will continue to outpace our revenue, even if we increase taxes at 2% a year. It means that we would have to look at continued significant increases in state aid each year to be able to fund our recurring expenses as they sit. So on this slide, I'm going to focus on the changes from the last presentation. We have added another $1.5 million in proposed use of one-time funds, making the difference year over year $3.8 million. The one-house budgets were both released and adopted by the respective houses, so negotiations on the budget have begun at the state level. And they have released what they call the February database. If they fund the February database, we are anticipating another $3.29 million in foundation aid. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure was really clear, when we talk about some of the different categories of revenue, local revenue is not just our tax levy. That would also include our payments in lieu of taxes, utility taxes, penalties and interest on taxes that are paid late, as well as our interest earnings on our investments and fund balance. State revenue is not just foundation aid, there's various categories of aid that we also receive. Some of those are based on enrollment, and some of those are based on our expenditures. Federal revenue at this point for us is really focused on our Medicaid reimbursement, which is associated with our Exceptional Learners Program. And then in the appropriated one-time use, we have both appropriated fund balance and appropriated restricted reserves. So looking at our updated projected revenue for next year, we're at $350.9 million. The change in this graph is really with the gold at the top, which is now $7.9 million. Previously, it was $6.4. To tie everything together, we chose to color code this chart. So you'll see that the colors here tie back to the pie chart on the previous slide by category. So the local revenue is highlighted in blue, the state revenue is orange, the federal revenue is a beigey gray color, and then the appropriated one-time is yellow, making our year-over-year difference now $15.46 million. At this time, we've changed our planned use for next year for restricted reserves and fund balance, and we have increased that to 7.9. That column is highlighted in this table, so you can see what we're talking about specifically for fiscal 25. The change is in the unassigned fund balance. We raised that from $3 million to $4.5. What we had seen previously was that in 3 years projected, we were using a little bit less than half of our total on this chart. The inverse is now true. Now we're using more than half. We're at 17.9, and we would retain about $16 million. When we look at the updated revenue projection by category, the adjustment in this chart is strictly related to the appropriated one-time use, now $7.9 million, again with a total of $350.9 million. So at the last meeting, the board asked us to prepare some different scenarios for a tax levy increase. We were specifically asked to look at a 0.5, a 1.0, a 1.5, a 2%, and a simple majority. We have 5 different scenarios in the presentation this evening for you. The first one is the 0.5 increase, which is about $554,000. It shows in the city of Newburgh year-over-year tax rate increase of 7 cents. I do want to note with each of these scenarios, we are using 23-24 assessed values because the new assessment values have not been released yet. And we are also using the 23-24 equalization rates because the Office of Real Property Services has not yet released the equalization rates for 24-25 for each of the municipalities. So these will change, but this is the best estimate we can give you at this time. So you'll see here that whether you're in the city of Newburgh, Cornwall, the town of Newburgh, or the town of New Windsor, your tax bill is relatively the same if your assessed value is the same. And it should be, right? That's the whole point of the equalization rates, is to really make sure that you level up. A 1% tax levy increase is $1.1 million in revenue, and that would be a 15-cent per thousand increase in the city of Newburgh. The 1.5 is approximately $1.66 million, which would be a 22-cent increase year over year per thousand of assessed value. 2% would be $2.2 million in additional revenue, or 30 cents per thousand of assessed value. And our simple majority, which is 50 plus 1, is actually a calculation of $3.8 million based on the tax levy calculation that was shared with you all earlier on the cap. So based on our exclusions, we can raise up to $4.2 million in our tax levy next year without requiring a supermajority of voters. That's a pretty significant change from zero over the last 9 years, and it would be 56 cents per thousand of assessed value in the city of Newburgh. So we're going to have a little bit more discussion later in the presentation, but we're going to talk a little bit about the different scenarios that we shared this evening, as well as whether or not the board wants us to look at more use of appropriated one-time money. We've been sharing our biggest expense driver categories, and they really are compensation and employee benefits, followed by student transportation, out-of-district tuition, and debt service. This is a list of mandated expenses that we've been sharing with you as well throughout the process. Based on our work to date, looking at all the master schedules and staffing and things, we have an updated budget projection at this time of a total of $359.9 million. We have decreased primarily in the area of compensation, as we have made adjustments of 83.5 positions. This is mostly via retirement, attrition, and vacancies. We're going to briefly review the restricted funds within Foundation Aid because this is a requirement that we do. So the first area of set aside we have is the contract for excellence. This was increased for fiscal 24 to $13.5 million, which was an increase of over $4 million in restricting how we could use our Foundation Aid. We have asked but have still not received an update as to whether or not that will change again for fiscal 25. Last year they suggested it would be increased again, but that has not yet been finalized. We will use these funds to continue to support the areas of time on task, middle school and high school restructuring, full-day pre-K and kindergarten, and model programs for ELLs. Since this program was developed back in 2007-8, we are really continuing to support many of these areas, and we added some last year when we had the increase in the set-aside. So we'll continue to support 23 ELL teachers, 4 career and technical education teachers at the middle school level, 10 secondary assistant principals, 8 secondary guidance counselors, as well as 4 ITFs, 6 AIS teachers, 1 director of technology, and 4 library media specialists. And we do support our pre-K program through the general fund in this set-aside. Right now that's at 5 teachers and 21 teaching assistants, as well as all the transportation expense for this program and all the supplies and materials for this program. Our community school set-aside is much smaller. That continues to be at $837,000. And next year we will continue to support 2 psychologists, 3 social workers, and 3 parent liaisons, which were added in fiscal 24. At this time, based on our updated projected revenue and projected expense, we have a gap of $9 million. So if we look at right now what our revenue projection is, and say we increase the levy at 1% a year, starting in fiscal 26, we anticipate a range of $359.7 to $388.4 million over the next 3 successive years. At a 2% levy, we anticipate revenue ranging from $360.8 million to $389.5 million. Using our current budget projection, we did a multi-year expense projection for fiscal 26, 27, and 28. And that shows an expenditure starting at $379.8 million in fiscal 26 and going to $424.28 million in fiscal 28. The largest drivers of our increases are compensation and employee benefits. When we take those and we put them together and we look at a multi-year gap projection at this time, at a 1% tax levy increase, we have gap ranges from $19.1 million to $38.9 million, which is pretty significant. And the biggest driver year over year is our employee benefits. At a 2% tax levy, we still have a gap, and it starts at $16.9 million and goes out to $34.3 million, which really goes back to what we said at the beginning. We have a structural issue in our budget, and our expenses are continuing to outpace the revenue we can derive without significant increases in state aid each year. Our next steps, we're going to continue to review the revenue and monitor any legislative budget information. We would love it if they did their budget this week, but we know that is not necessarily likely, so we anticipate we'll hear early April what that will look like. We continue to review our expenses for efficiencies. We know we still have $9 million gap. We are continuing to review our expenses. We are continuing to review the retirement notifications to determine if there's any more positions we wouldn't need to backfill and maintain program for students. And we will provide a balanced budget to the board on April 9th. Questions? Actually, we're going to go back and talk about revenue. Right there.
So one of the things that we want to direct your attention to as a board is, are you interested in a tax levy increase? Kimberly shared with you what a 0.5, the various scenarios that you requested, and we just need to get some direction from you as a board in terms of where we should go with the budget.
So looking at the numbers, there's no two ways around it that the flat tax levy has been an unsustainable model. We can't expect to keep our tax levy from increasing and having increasing costs, especially when human resources is our biggest costs, and teachers get raises, everyone gets raises every year. So unfortunately, we are going to have to raise it more than we would like to, and nobody wants their taxes raised. But if we look at the math, if we raise it 0.5%, for me, I live in the town of Newburgh, 68.89, and then if we raise it a simple majority, it's 71.16. It's not that big of a cost to save positions, to save programs, to sustain our district. So that's where I'm looking. That's where I'm leaning.
Any other comments? Ms. Mineo?
I agree with you, Ms. Politi. I know that we've kind of hurt ourselves by putting ourselves in this position. I also live in the town of Newburgh, and I think that's where we're going to have to go to get the most help in saving positions and making sure that our kids are taken care of in the right way. So although it's going to hurt in my pocket as well as everybody else around the table and everybody else that's out there listening, I think it's something that we have to do at this point, not happily. I do have a question. A couple of slides back, you talked about reducing the compensation, so that you can eliminate the 86 positions. When will the board be able to see those positions and who those positions are?
So thus far, I believe we're about that approximate 84 positions. Much of that we've done through retirement and attrition and vacancies that we have not been able to fill. We will have those categories by April 9th. In addition to, we're continuing to work with our building principals to look at how we serve our students. And so they've been on board We start every conversation with, we started with a few weeks ago, we are $16 million in the hole, and we can't necessarily afford to continue to run our buildings in the way that we have been doing them. So, they're also taking a really good look and close look with us. We've met several times. We've walked the buildings, but we've met with the building principals and looked at staffing ratios, numbers, looking at master schedules. So we will have, we believe, some additional gives, and we will have the categories by April 9th, before April 9th for your consideration, so you'll have an opportunity to see ahead of the April 9th meeting.
Mr. Levinstein.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions before I would hopefully get answered before I would commit to raising a tax levy. But the biggest thing that I'm looking at is we have the restricted reserves and fund balance, and you have a projection of reducing it over 3 years' time, 7.9 million, then 5 million, and then 5 million. And for this projection, you're not planning on replacing, filling those funds back in, unless there was, excess during the years. So why, if getting it down to 16 million is okay and safe, why can't we take the following year's fund balance too and include it in this year? In other words, an additional $5 million, because you're okay with it being drawn down to that figure over 3 years. I think that would be a substantial, thing for the community by using that money this year. I believe your projections, and I believe they're in normal times, which we're not always in, but in normal times, they are replenished at the end of the school year. So that's what I would look for first, if that's something that's a possibility. And the other thing was piggybacking on what Ms. Mineo said about, we have a couple of things where we said, and you answered, Dr. Manning Campbell, but we have initial staffing adjustments have been made, and we have a comment that we're establishing student-staff ratios and staffing ratios for support staff and administration, and that 83 positions that are at this point non-layoff positions are being looked at and what we might have to backfill. I think all those figures are important going forward to hear before saying, oh, yeah, let's have a tax increase.
So I'd like to clarify a couple of things. What we said is that right now we've enacted a reduction of 83.5 positions, so that's how we got to a 9 million gap. Those are mostly through attrition, retirement, and existing vacancies that we just aren't going to fill at this time. In terms of the fund balance, the board could decide that they want to use an extra $5 million in next year's budget. That's a board decision. However, those are one-time funds, and that just means we're kind of cushioning ourselves for future year reductions. It doesn't solve the problem, right? So if we know we have a structural issue in our budget, I'm not saying don't use the one-time money, but we also have to really look at recalibrating our operations to move towards something that is sustainable, right? So in terms of, tax levy increases, we did a calculation just to kind of see what it would have looked like. If we'd gone out at 1% each of the last 9 years, we would have $10 more million in our base as we started this year's process, which would have more than covered the current $9 million gap.
Mr. Harvey.
Just explain a little bit more about the one-time, because I think people are going to get confused on that. And thank you for last Friday for educating me on that. about once it's gone, unless we have surplus.
So I think one of the things that we would note too is that last year at the end of fiscal 23, the reason why we had funds that we could dedicate to a reserve was because we had excess revenue. So revenue came in higher than we assumed. Our expenditures were very tight to what we estimated that budget to cost us. So that's something we have to look at. As we get tighter and tighter with our estimates, our actual expenditures are coming in closer and closer. And we don't have $8, $10, $12 million at the end of the year that we can replenish those reserves with.
Ms. Mineo.
I respectfully disagree with Mr. Levenstein on this account. I think we should really be careful with those one-time expenditures. I think right in the past, I've seen budgeting where we've had a lot of money that we can put aside. Now, just like everybody's household, more money for gas, more money for food, more money for heating. We're doing the same thing here. So our savings throughout the year are going to be less. So I don't think we're going to be able to replenish that as well. The other comment I'd like to make is I think that we really need to be careful when we do have to look at more positions that are going to be needed to fill the gap. I think looking today and listening to the parents speak and knowing the way the state of our community and our world is today, we really need to have clean schools and we need to have safe schools. And I think we need to be careful when we have to look at what needs to go for budget, and we need to keep those things in mind, and we need to keep our kids right in the front. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a tough time, and I'm going to agree with some of the comments my colleagues have made. And speaking from both sides as a board member, with a fiduciary responsibility to the district, but also as a taxpayer, and I enjoyed those zeros over the 9 years, but you know what? It was really kicking the can down the road, and it's really coming due now. It really is, and I know it's a tough decision, but I have a question before I speak to this, so I'm going to hope that if we do go with the simple majority, is this going to allow us to stay as far away from the classrooms as possible, as far as, with the cuts there, as far as security, as far as those positions. This will give us some comfort in knowing that those positions will not be part of this decision. So we say as far away from the classroom as possible, teachers, security, cleaners, and stuff like that. So I'm going to say I will agree with the simple majority if those things can be assured. And like I said, 9 years kicking it down the road at zeros, it's coming due. So I will agree with the simple majority.
So I do want to just footnote that if I can for a second, because I'd like to remind the board that we did add security positions and custodial positions as part of our one-time dollars because we opened up a campus at Midtown. So we would anticipate that those positions are going away since that campus is no longer in use. So you may still see reductions in custodial and security, but it's partially because we added them and now we're going back.
So those would be positions that aren't filled now. Okay, thank you.
I'll go. As much as it pains me to say we have to raise taxes, we can look at it a couple of different ways. I'm of the opinion we go with the simple majority route, 3.5%, and I could look at it that my taxes are going up 3.5% in 1 year or 3.5% in 9 years, however I want to do the math. If you're a politician, you're not allowed to say you raise taxes, except I'm not a politician. And if it costs me an election to make sure we could put on a play like we did this weekend, so be it. That's the way it goes. Very difficult for the community, but we use the analogy, we kick the can down the road, we're at the dead end. We have nowhere to go. No matter how we try to put these numbers together, even with a simple majority increase, we're still looking at a significant gap that really some of us were not responsible for. We're new, you're new, I'm new, many new members. So we inherit the problem, and we'll have to deal with, I guess, the repercussions of saying we need to raise taxes. But that's my feeling, that's my belief. But I'd like to share that. Mr. Grant, I'd like your opinion on where we are.
Well, I live in the city of Newburgh, so I really feel for the people that live in New Windsor, in the town of Newburgh, to shoulder this burden, but at the same time, kicking the can down the hill or kicking the can up the hill leads to what? I've just been in this board for a month, and there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. And this is one of them. And I see that as much as I don't want to raise the levy, the more I look at the numbers, the more I see that the levy needs to be raised. So I'm torn, but at the same time, if everybody who's here, there, want the best for their children in this district, something I always say, put your money where your mouth is. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harvey, you discussed a few things, but what's your feeling on the levy?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, nobody wants to raise taxes. Mm-hmm. Nobody. I live in the city of Newburgh also. But, you know, we listen to people today, and it's about education. And I was telling Mr. Field today as I was going around Newburgh, the only thing I was hearing was about how great this play was this weekend. You know, and these kids were so excited, right? I mean, I was hearing it all over the place. So I think that that's what we need to strive to do, to make sure our kids is continuing to be afford to be able to put on plays like that, so that the community can have that, you know, that spunk that they need, and instead of just hearing all the crazy stuff that they think goes on in our school district, but to really put the Newburgh Free Academy on the map for what it's really known for, which is scholars. So I go with the majority. You know.
Thank you. That was well said. Mr. Walker, we'd love to hear from you.
I'm really torn because I know of people where $300, $1,000 increase can destroy them. They may not have a can to kick down or a voice to speak out. I understand what's going on. I just have to be able to look at these people in the face if I say, well, this is what I thought was better. And I don't know if I'm ready to do that just yet, I'll be honest.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Levinstein, how do you feel about the tax levy?
I don't like it, but I assume that it's going to be necessary. I wouldn't support the maximum tax levy, which is 3.5%, but if it was reasonable, and I'm going to ask Ms. Roaring, I mean, I know the answer, but this way you can give the answer. If there is a 2% tax tax levy hike, and what you put on your presentation was a home worth $300,000 in the city of Newburgh which was about $4,600.
I actually brought that slide back up so everybody could look at it again.
So if it's 2% and it was at 45, 40, I can't see that well from here. So a 2% levy is really $90 per year per home that's valued at $300,000?
I think the other way to look at it too is what Mr. DeRay said. We haven't raised taxes in 9 years, so even though this may seem like a lot at one point in time, it's really 10 years in the making, so to speak, of an increase. And so if you look at it from that lens, it's even less. But yes, year over year, there's not a significant increase in many, but again, that's based on the assessed value of your property. So if your property is $500,000 or $1 million, you're going to feel it more than someone who has a lower assessed value.
I understand it, but we didn't really make it clear that we just said nobody likes paying taxes. Everyone assumes their taxes are high, and we're saying now there's going to be a hike in it. I think we need to be a little more specific and say the hike for a $300,000 home in the city of Newburgh is $90 a year. I think that may be a little, that would help people understand that it isn't, I don't want to say that it's not a lot of money, because to some people it certainly is.
Yes.
But again, your point of 9 years of no tax levy increase adds to that.
So what we'll do in the next presentation is we'll do a bill comparison rather than a rate comparison.
Mr. Howard.
No, I agree with Mr. Levenstein. And like I said, I can't look at it as what we did for 10 years, 9, 10 years. What the impact is going to be now is it's going to be very important to people. You know, like I said, I enjoy it at zero, but I want to know what the change is going to be to my taxes now. And I think people need to hear that. And because these numbers are a little intimidating when you look at it, but I believe when you break it down and you do it off the assessed value, those numbers are more palpable. I mean, it's going to be an increase, but I don't think it's what some people may anticipate. So I think if we can get those real numbers, and based off the assess, I think that would go a lot further with people.
Are you good? You have the direction you need? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roaring. Items 5.4 and 5.5 are consent items for your review. My apologies. Items 5.3 and 5.4.
Can we get a motion to move them? Thank you. Any discussion on 5.3 or 5.4? Okay, pull the vote.
Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. President, we have asked for a resolution to be added to the agenda.
Okay, can we get a motion and a second to add an item to an agenda?
So moved.
Discussion? No. Vote.
I can read the resolution. Be it resolved that upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, that the Board of Education hereby approves the term of the supplemental memorandum of agreement dated March 9, 2024, between the district and the Newburgh Teachers Association. A copy of said agreement as presented to the Board at this meeting shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting. And the agreement is to make an adjustment to the 23-24 school year calendar.
Any discussion on this item? Okay. What's that? Vote to add the item.
Roll call. Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Point of order. So you need to now ask for entertain a motion on the SMOA as presented.
Got a motion and a second?
Second.
Discussion on this item?
John.
Mr. Levinstein.
Can, Ms. Peterson, can you just explain the reasoning behind what we're doing here?
So the district is requesting from the NTA to adjust the contractual limit on the contract to make an adjustment to the school calendar for the upcoming eclipse by contract. We have a 188 school day calendar, which is above and beyond our required amount of days. And we want to take that time to make sure the district prepares for the eclipse and just for safety, depending on where it aligns.
Thank you.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd like another resolution to add another agenda item to the agenda.
Can we get a motion to add an item to the agenda?
So moved.
Any discussion? Please read the item.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the revised district calendar for the 23-24 school year. And the change within the calendar is noted that April 8th would now be a half a day for students and staff.
That's it. Discussion. Any discussion on this item? Let's vote to add.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Doré? Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Now you have a 5.8 for your consideration this evening, the resolution to approve the 23-24 district calendar.
Motion to add? Yes, correct. Motion and a second to add.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
Anyone? Thank you.
Second. Discussion on this item?
Okay. April 8th will now be a half day if this is approved. Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items this evening. Thank you.
All right, moving to item 6, Board President. I have one resolution and two first readings. Okay, I got a motion on the resolution 6.1.
So moved.
Any discussion on this item? Call the vote.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Okay, next up we have 6.2, first reading of the policies for discussion, not for consent. Mr. Levinstein.
Just a question on policy 1230, which is the public comment. On this, it's marked, let me see. Okay, wait, let me go back to the beginning. If it's shaded in gray, that was the New York State School Board's recommendation for these policies? Is that correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and if it's in red, it's the district's change to that policy. Now, also, it's in bold on some of these policies. That's also what was changed because of the the New York State School Boards Association, or no?
Correct, sir. As you see, it says note, we have suggested the bold text for the board's consideration, which then was okayed by the policy review team and then the policy committee.
Okay, so that's very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Howard, for doing that work. But anyway, it says to allow members of the public to address the board, 2 periods not to exceed 30 minutes. Should that be 30 minutes in total, just to make it clear? Or is it 30 minutes each to make it clear?
We currently have 30 minutes each.
But it's not.
The superintendent did not want to take any time away, nor did the policy review team want to take any additional time away from the public. So there's 30 minutes on non-agenda and 30 minutes on agenda.
Okay, but is it clear the way it's written here is what my point is? I know that's what we want. 2 periods not to exceed 30 minutes. I think the word each should be in there because this could be taken either way. Well, we're not voting on this now.
Okay, can we get a consent to add to the next meeting?
We'll bring that back to the policy committee, that recommendation, and we'll bring it back to the next meeting reading. Point of order. So the plan was to then bring these to the next board meeting for approval. So if we could just get the consensus of the board as a whole right now, and we could just add each, if that's the clarification, it would be in terms of moving forward, if we could just add that now and get the board's consensus, then when we do the second reading and the adoption, that would just be in there.
Is that the only correction?
Yeah. Okay, we'll just go around the table. Ms. Mineo?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Mr. Grant? Okay. Okay. Mr.
Yes.
Howard, yes. Mr. Levinstein? Mr. Lee? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Walker? All right, that's our consent. Okay, next up we have 6.3, first reading of the Newburgh Free Library Policy 7501.01, use of meeting rooms. Any questions for discussion? All right, then it's just consent to add.
This will come to the next board meeting for adoption.
Okay. So we don't need to go around. Okay. All right, next up, item 7, Clerk of the Board, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the approval of the minutes from the March 5th board meeting.
Okay. Get a motion and a second to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Any discussion? Let's call vote.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Some housekeeping items. There's 6 seats up for the Board of Education. If you're interested in running for the board, you can contact me in the clerk's office. You need to get 100 signatures, and those are due back in the clerk's office by May 1st at 5 p.m. The April 9th, there will be a public hearing here at the board office at 124 Grand Street at 7 p.m. That public hearing will be about the volunteer firemen and volunteer ambulance workers that was discussed at the last board meeting. In addition, the board auditorium will be getting renovated with our audio and video equipment. So the meeting that's scheduled for the board on April 23rd will not take place here. That meeting for the board will take place at Meadow Hill School starting at 6 p.m. That concludes my items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Moving on, item 8, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Good evening, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have items
8.1 through 8.23.
Thank you. Would
For your
anybody like to
consideration.
separate out any of these items? No. Could I get a motion and second on 8.1 through 8.23?
So moved.
Any discussion on these items? Mr. Levinstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Personnel Committee did not meet to vet these resolutions being brought forward tonight on the Human Resources agenda. So for clarity for myself and others, I would like to ask administration if I have a correct interpretation of the resolutions coming up for a vote. Regular appointments, leaves of absences, resignations, rescissions. 4, negotiated supplemental memorandum of agreement with the CSEA for one-time stipend for special ed work, one-time stipend for a typist, annual stipend for a typist, annual stipend for a senior typist related to cafeteria fund work, and a negotiated settlement, a negotiated supplemental memorandum of agreement for work assisting the Director of Grants. Also, approving appointments or additional appointments from multiple funding sources for the following: Empire After School Program, Elementary After School Program, Friday Night Lights After School Enrichment, My Brother's Keeper Men's Club Program, Holiday and Saturday Test Strategy Support, Her Time to Play Spring Session, Marist Early College High School Program, New York Gear Up, South Middle School Data Team, 21st Century After School Programs, Career and Tech Ed Curriculum Writing, Extended School Year Principals, 504 Chairperson and DASA Building Level Coordinators. Also, creating a .5 part-time cleaner for the library, creating a senior account clerk for food services, and a reduction of a probationary appointment because of tenure in another district. Mr. McLemore, does this accurately describe the resolutions you are presenting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further discussions, questions on these items? Move to vote.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
That concludes my items, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, Assistant Superintendent of Finance. Ms. Roaring, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Division presents items 9.1 to 9.8 for routine consent tonight.
Would anybody like to separate out any items? Can we get a motion and a second then on 9.1 to 9.8?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on these items? Mr. Levinson.
So just two quick comments, or just to check. 9.3 is transferring $4 million to fund retirement incentives, and 9.4 is transferring $1.5 million for health insurance increases. Thank you.
Any further discussion on these items? Call to vote.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you. Number 10, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Moriarty. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have item 10.1 as a consent agenda for your approval this evening.
Just one item. Any? Can we move to motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Any discussion on this item? So,
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my item.
Thank you. Number 11, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, Secondary. Good evening, Dr. Mack.
Good evening, Mr. President. For the secondary, I have two items, 11.1, which are conference requests, and also 11.2 for your consideration, which is field trips.
Get a motion and a second to adopt these?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on these items? Let's vote.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Thank you. That is all for my items this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12, Assistant Superintendent of Exceptional Learners. Good evening, Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Exceptional Learners has 3 items for the board's consideration on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Would anybody like to separate out any of these items? Ms. Politi?
12.3, please.
Okay, 12.3 is separated. Can I get a motion on 12.1 and 12.2?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on 12.1 or 12.2? Let's go.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second for 12.3?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on this item? Mrs. Politi?
So, Mr. Bear, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Bear, there was a parent who was concerned over the use or purchase of iPads that spoke earlier tonight, and hope they're still watching. Could you please clarify why we're purchasing iPads?
Sure. So these are one-time ARP funds that we're using. It's a non-recurring expense. It's for our evaluation process. Historically, we contract with 3 different companies. Everything's been paper and pencil. They have since moved to electronic formats that allows us to do web-based assessments. The paper has to be renormed every few years when they make a new test. It can cost upwards of $100,000 to buy the new test for the 20 or so psychologists, for example. All of that is now built into their online program. So I get unlimited test paper that I need to. Normally we have to buy what they call protocols. They're like answer sheets that for every kid. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to buy new tests every time they're renormed. They're telling us that the annual fee for the online program is about $40,000. There are years we've spent upwards of $150,000 for the paper pencil. So it's going to be, in the long run, a cost-saving measure, significantly so. But what's needed is the iPads to allow the electronic. The student and the evaluator sit across from each other and use Bluetooth technology to answer questions that are in front of them that all get captured by the evaluator. So it's actually a great example of how we can save money by spending money up front. Over the long run, it's going to save significant dollars to the district.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you. Last item, I don't believe we're moving into executive session again. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn this evening?
So moved. Second.
We're adjourned.
Well, we got to vote. Mr. Walker?
I'm adjourned.
Mr. Doré? Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo? Ms. Politi?
Yes.